It's another installment of Trillium Talk across the Village Media Network, and of course available wherever you get your favorite podcast. I'm Scott Sexsmith, and very pleased to have back with us from our team at the Trillium reporter, Charlie Pinkerton. Good to see you, Charlie. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Scott. Good to see you too. Always happy to do this.
All right, the redevelopment of Ontario Place has been making some headlines, and Charlie, of course, you've been following this story very closely. In fact, just completing a three-part series on it for our Trillium subscribers. Let's start with the Ford government's preference for Therma's proposal over the many others. What sealed the deal?
Yeah, so there's not one single thing. Through the reporting that I've done recently and, over many months and I guess years now, because Therma's involvement in the Ontario Place redevelopment was announced way back in 2021. There was 30 plus proponents who bid on the redevelopment, which wasn't just for the West Island, which Therma is taking over, but pretty much the whole thing, with the exception of Budweiser Stage, the amphitheater there that I think many probably have been to, if not once and multiple times. There were sort of converging factors at the time. There was a lot of suspicions that the Ford government might try to put a casino there, so it ruled that out. It ruled out housing proposals. It very much wanted a year-round, sort of like a big attraction. And, it just so happened that Therma, that had come to Canada a couple years before the Ford government launched its process, had a big attraction to offer. It wasn't a casino. One of the maybe issues with its proposal, which was a requirement that it thought was for more parking, was something that many others also wanted. And so, the best that I could discover, among other things, was that it sort of made the right pitch at the right time. I should mention as well that of the, almost half of the proponents that I've been able to determine, there was at least 4 spas that were considered as well. And so thinking back in my mind, back to 2019, when the Ford government was trying to figure this out, these kind of like thermal spa experiences were a bit trendy then. And so, it was sort of a number of things, but really right place, right time in a lot of ways.
All right, we'll pick up the casino thought in a minute, because there is a theory out there. Charlie, let's talk about the stuff that's always at play behind the scenes, and we know what happens. Who were some of the players that made this deal happen, and what role has Leslie Noble and former Toronto Mayor John Tory played in all this?
Yeah, so one of the things at Therma, which was formed as a subsidiary of, this massive heating systems company overseas in Austria in 2011, when it arrived in Canada in 2017, set up its Canadian operations, which was very bare bones for many years. It made, I guess what can be seen as a rather savvy move, and started working with really a lot of lobbyists. One company in particular, Strategy Corp, which Leslie Noble, who you mentioned, co-founded back in 1995. Leslie Noble is notable because she was one of the co-authors of Mike Harris's Common Sense Revolution. She helped him get elected, win both of his majorities. She's very well known in conservative politics. And, she worked at Strategy Corp for a very long time, helping to build that firm into what it is today. And, first started working with Therma back in 2018. She was who introduced them to the Toronto International Film Festival, which was one of its early partnerships. She was a board member on TIFF. After couple of years of being involved with the company through Strategy Corp, she took on a reduced role with Strategy Corp back in 2020. So this was actually after the Ford government decided that Therma was going to be its main partner for Ontario Place. So shortly after that, Leslie Noble took a reduced role with the lobbying firm, started doing more work with Therma, giving advice to its CEO on global expansion matters. The company was trying to expand vastly globally at the time. And, in the course of this reporting, we learned that she's actually going to become a director of Therma Canada soon. As for John Tory's part, as the mayor of Toronto, with Ontario Place being along Toronto's waterfront, while provincially owned as well, he had some proximity to the process. What I've been able to find through various documents is that, especially leading up to when the call for development, which was the submissions process, was supposed to end, that his office and those in the government dealing with this were very much in touch quite frequently. There was a lot of lobbying done by Therma's lobbyists at the municipal level. So what is still unclear is just how much information was exchanged at that time, how big of a factor the city of Toronto under Mayor Tory was. I did speak to John Tory last week, I believe. He essentially said that he didn't think he had much of a sway and actually didn't know much about the process back then. And so, yeah, some of those exact details are still not known. But one of the things I guess I'll say is that we have a auditor general that is looking into this at the moment. And so we may learn more about the specifics on that front by year's end.
All right. Now, there's some speculation. Some call it a theory that Therma will leave or eventually shut down and be replaced by a casino, fulfilling a one-time dream of Rob Ford, the premier's brother, who wanted to see this happen when he was mayor.
Mm-hmm. So that's, Therma building this big spa and water park on the waterfront. This has been something that has, resurfaced again and again as sort of a controversy at Queen's Park over, further privatization of the site, over its 95-year lease, cutting down trees. There's a lot of different things and reasons why some folks are not a fan or are not fans of this idea. Some of those same folks and others believe that this plan is actually some sort of shell for, basically the spa and water park to fall apart, not get completed, to run aground within a few years, and that'll be replaced by a casino, which, like you said, was a old ambition of the Fords at City Hall. The Ford government, they ruled out casinos from Ontario Place during the call for development in a minister's zoning order that is, paving the way for the construction that is going to happen there. They, legally ruled out its use for a casino. We had talked about Leslie Noble. She, sort of gained some notoriety in the 90s for lobbying for, a group of casino companies. And so in doing this reporting, I did not want to feed into this idea because as far as everything is made clear, this is not what is going to happen. And, the company says that this is not going to happen either. Leslie Noble has not been involved with casino companies since the 90s. So while, yes, I think it's a fun theory and something that continues to be talked about. I see it almost daily on Twitter, which maybe is not a good place to take the temperature of anything from. But nevertheless, by my best account, there will not be a casino at Ontario Place.
All right. Time will tell. It seems, Charlie, that Therma's plans and ambitions seem to go beyond Ontario Place. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so that's how we sort of wrap things up in this series of 3 stories that I did with, well, what else are they going to do? And I think this is also, a testament to what we were just speaking about, is that Therma does want to grow in Canada. It does want to have other facilities. It's focused on the Ontario Place redevelopment right now. That it hopes to open that facility in 2028. So that's still years away. But Therma has applied to redevelop it's an old power generating station sort of at the base of Niagara Falls. And so we are expecting to hear about whether they will be doing that this summer or if another company will be chosen. They admit that they have been in conversations with other Canadian cities. They wouldn't say where else. One of the sort of, I think, more fun and less serious parts of this report was looking at the trademarks they filed. They filed trademarks for a whole bunch of things outside of the spa and water park business. I was, slightly disappointed to learn that their trademarks that they filed for watercraft launching and operating does not mean that that is going to be something from the Ontario Place site or the Niagara Park site. But like I said, they do want to grow larger. They do want to have other sites. And so Therma, Ontario Place may not be the only one, and potentially even soon, depending on the decision this summer in Niagara Falls.
All right. Before we let you go, Charlie, timeline and cost of the entire redevelopment?
So, like I said, Therma hopes it will open its facility in 2028. Right now, there's what's called site servicing going on at Ontario Place. So that's like preparing the water infrastructure and more to facilitate not only Therma's facility, but the new Ontario Science Center, the upgraded Budweiser stage. So that's happening right now. It's a little bit unclear about when construction is going to start. A lot of moving pieces, and with these big, infrastructure projects that the government is involved in, it can be a little hard to predict. In terms of the cost, Therma initially said it was going to build a $350 million facility. It now expects it to be more. We don't know what its new estimate is. There is a publicly paid for parking lot that's going to be built nearby. That will be hundreds of millions of dollars. Again, the estimate is unclear exactly. The Science Center, hundreds of millions as well. So this is a major government project, but also a major project for this company as well. So in total, the amount that the company and the government is spending will surpass $1 billion at least. And yeah, hopefully it'll work out and we'll have a pretty cool Ontario Place.
Wow. Hundreds of millions for a new science center. Might have been cheaper to just fix the roof.
But it would have been, but that's a whole nother story. We can talk about that later.
That's a future episode. All right, Charlie, thanks for the most comprehensive coverage of Ontario politics anywhere. Log on and become a Trillium Insider today at thetrillium.ca. Reporter Charlie Pinkerton. Thanks for this, Charlie. Have a great week.
Anytime. You too.